In this module, we shall study about accounting assumptions. Accounting concepts and principles are a set of general conventions that have been planned to offer a simple framework for financial reporting. As financial reporting includes significant professional results by accountants, these concepts and principles make sure that the workers of financial facts are not misinformed by the acceptance of accounting policies and practices that go beside the spirit of the accountancy profession. Accountants must therefore dynamically consider whether the accounting treatments approved are reliable with the accounting concepts and principles. In order to confirm application of the accounting concepts and principles, main accounting standard setting bodies have integrated them into their reporting frameworks such as the IASB framework. After studying this module, you shall be able to know about the different accounting concepts, know about the objectivity principle. Let us understand the money measurement concept. Record should be made only of that facts that can be stated in monetary terms. Although the business may own 7 buildings, 5 boilers, 50 cars, 30 trucks, you cannot add them organized simply like that and get to know what the business is worth. Expressing these items in economic terms by saying that you have buildings worth rupees 15 crore, boilers worth rupees 50 lakhs, cars worth rupees 1 crore and trucks worth rupees 2 crores will make it easier for you to add up these items by adding their monetary values. You cannot add apples and oranges openly, but they can be added easily by expressing them in monetary terms. So, money offers a common denominator by which the funds and other factors about the business entity can be conveyed and valued. Expressing in monetary terms also helps in accepting the changes, their impact on value of the resources. As you can see, this concept imposes a severe limitation on the scope of accounting. It is impossible for the accounting to record or report the health of the key people of the organization, or that a plant is not working, or that labor is going on strike, or that the key people are leaving the organization, and other important factors that may have a direct behavior on the future of the organization. Moving on to the entity concept. Accounts can only be had for entities which are dissimilar from the persons who are related with these entities. The business entity principle resources that business is accounted for distinctly from its owners. It also means that we account separately for each business that is controlled by the same owner. The reason last this principle is that separate information about each business is needed by different users for decision making. In sole proprietorships and partnerships, it is challenging to separate the entity from the vendors, as there is no dissimilarity as per the law amongst the financial affairs of the partnership and the partners, or the proprietorship concern and the proprietor. The problems in unraveling the expenses of the associates or the proprietor from the anxiety makes it easier for them to pass on their personal expenditures to the concern. This is exactly the reason why a lot of proprietorships and partnership distresses hardly pay any income tax. For a company, this dissimilarity is easier to make for the reason that company keep up separate legal identity and its accounts correspond exactly to the scope of its activities. Now, let us learn about the going concern concept. Accounting records events and transactions on the assumption that the entity will continue to operate for an indefinitely long period of time. Unless there is strong evidence to the contrary, accounting assumes that an entity is a going concern. The significance of this assumption can be seen by contrasting it with another possible alternative, that the concern would be liquidated. Under the later assumption, accounting should attempt to measure what the entity's resources are currently worth to potential buyers. The going concern concept assumes that the resources currently available to the entity will be used in its future operations. This helps in distributing the effects of big expenses over several periods because their benefits also accrue over several periods. We shall now discuss the cost concept. Assets are always shown at their cost and not at their current market value. One of the most fundamental concepts of accounting, the cost concept, says that the asset is ordinarily entered into the accounting records at the actual cost incurred to acquire it. Cost is restrained on a cash or equal to cash basis. These funds, if cash is given for an asset or service, its cost is restrained as the amount of cash paid. If something in addition cash is exchanged, such as a car traded for a truck, cost is measured as the cash equivalent of what is given up or received. We know that the real worth of asset may change over a period of time. So the value in the accounting records may not reflect the real value of the assets owned by the concern. Land purchased in 1975 for Rs 5 lakhs and a car purchased for Rs 5 lakhs in 1999, both would be recorded at these respective values in the books of accounts, irrespective of the fact that the land could be worth Rs 5 crores today and the car would be worth Rs 3 lakhs now. Accountants are fully aware of this fact but do not attempt to reflect such changes in the accounts as there could be significant differences in values estimated by different entities. The cost concept does not mean that all assets will remain in the accounting records at their original purchase price. The cost of the asset that has a long but limited life is systematically reduced over that life by the process of depreciation. The purpose of the depreciation process is to systematically remove the cost of the asset from the account and show it as the cost of operations. Still, depreciation has no necessary relationship to changes in market value or to the real worth of the asset. To emphasize the distinction between the accounting concept and value as we understand it, the term book value is used for the historical cost amounts as shown in the accounting records, and the term market value for the actual value of the asset in the market. The cost concept provides an excellent illustration of the objectives of the accounting principles: relevance, objectivity, and feasibility. These three criteria can often conflict with each other. For example, if a company develops a new product, it can have a significant effect on the real value of the company. This information of the new product is very relevant to the creditors and the investors as also the internal users. But the value of this product will normally be estimated by the management and is highly subjective. Therefore, accounting does not attempt to record such values, thereby sacrificing relevance in the interest of objectivity. Therefore, the cost concept fulfills the criteria of objectivity and feasibility but does not fulfill the criteria of relevance. It is not only objective also, but it is moderately more objective than approximating market values and reporting them. Moving further, let us now understand the dual aspect concept. The value of the assets maintained by the concern is equal to the privileges on these assets. The fundamental accounting equation is the accurate expression of the dual aspect concept. All accounting procedures that we will talk over later are consequent from this equation. The equation is written as assets is equal to liabilities plus owner's equity. Economic events which are recorded in the accounting system are called transactions. Every operation that an organization assumes has a dual effect on the accounting records. That is, it will have an effect on two or more accounts instantaneously. This is why accounting is also called a double entry system. To elucidate, suppose that Ms. Sharda starts a dry cleaning business and her first act is to buy an industrial washing machine for Rs 1 lakh with her own money. The dual aspect of this transaction would be that a proprietorship business now has an asset, an industrial washing machine of rupees 1 lakh, and Ms. Sharda, the owner, has a claim of rupees 1 lakh against this asset. Putting this in the above equation, we get asset industrial washing machine rupees 1 lakh is equal to liabilities plus owner's equity, that is rupees 1 lakh. Now let us discuss about the accounting period concept. Accounting measures activity for a specified interval of time, usually a year. Net income is easy to measure if we are only dealing once, but the company deals constantly and we expect the company to continue forever. Remember, going concern principle. Therefore, it becomes difficult to find out whether the business is earning anything or not. Both the managers and external users are unwillingly to wait for the closure of the business to know how the business has fared. They need to know how things are going in the business at frequent intervals. This leads to the accounting period concept. The first author of a recognized accounting test by Colley composed in 1494. Books should be closed each year, especially in a partnership, because frequent accounting makes for long friendship. So the books of the organization are closed at systematic intermissions, usually a year, and the financial statements organized for reporting determinations. The Companies Act also wants that a report should be organized annually for reporting purposes, and income tax reporting is also on an annual basis. In India, the majority of the businesses follow April 1 till March 31, April of this year and March of next year as the accounting year, also known as fiscal year, but many businesses also use calendar year as the accounting year, especially the multinational companies. This is because it makes it easier for them to club the results of their activities with the parent companies overseas, which normally use calendar year as the accounting year. Still, they have to prepare and report to income tax authorities following the April 1 till March 31st accounting year. The accounting period for stockholder reporting determinations could be more or less than 1 year, but for taxation purposes, it remains the same. For internal reporting, there is no time period specified anywhere. Companies can use any period that they want to, as computerization have made it easier for them to take out accounting reports as and when required. Still, many of the companies which are not dependent on the computers commonly use a month as the reporting period. SEBI needs that the companies that are registered on the stock exchanges should dispute quarterly income statements for the advantage of the external users. Now, let us study about the conservatism concept. Anticipate no profits but provide for all possible losses. Like most humans, managers have a tendency to give a favorable report of the working of the entity that is under them. Accounting safeguards are designed to offset this natural tendency of optimism. The idea behind this principle is that the recognition of increase in entities' earnings requires better evidence than does the expenses. For example, if customer signs an MOU for buying rupees 10 lakhs worth of products, you will not recognize this revenue in your accounting system because the products have not changed hands and no transaction has taken place. You will only recognize the revenue once the sale is made and the product is delivered to the customer, so that you have a legal right to claim payment. Now, you can say that only the product has been delivered but the money has not come in, so you shall not recognize the sale till the time the money is paid. A cash system of accounting does exactly that. But the point, this product has been given to him, he is under a legal obligation to pay you the amount that is due to you. Therefore, under the accrual system of accounting, you will recognize that this sale as revenue and the customer owes you money till the time he pays up. Now, this debt could also become a bad debt. Money owed to you but never paid, and therefore you would provide for some losses that can happen due to bad debt. Even before they happen, depending upon the past experiences with your debtors. The conservatism principle therefore has two aspects. First, recognize revenues only when they are reasonably certain. Second, recognize expenses as soon as they are reasonably possible. These guiding principles are used while determining the period in which the expenditures and the revenues fall in. Apparently, it leaves certain gaps in determining what is meant by practically certain and practically possible in various circumstances. Accounting standards do offer definite measures for many specific problem areas, but their abuse is relatively common in India. So, you have to provide for losses that you rationally expect but not the incomes that you may believe in the future to make the accounting statistic redirects a conservative approach. We shall now understand the realization concept. The sale is considered to have taken place only when either the cash is received or some third party becomes legally liable to pay the amount. We have just learned from the conservatism principle when the revenue should be recognized. Realization concept indicates the amount and revenue that should be recognized from a given sale. The concept states that the amount recognized is the amount that is reasonably certain to be realized. Note the words reasonably certain. Differences of opinion are there when interpreting what is reasonably certain. The concept allows for the amount of the revenues recognized to be less than selling price of the goods or services sold. If the products are sold at a discount, then the revenue is recorded at the lower amount and not at the normal price, also called the list price. When the goods are sold on credit, you can never be sure of the amount that will be realized. So, you provide for bad debts also. Moving on, let us understand the matching concept. When an event affects both the revenues and expenses, the effect on each should be recognized in the same accounting period. As you already know, the sale of the products has two aspects. First, revenue aspect. Second, expense aspect. Revenues earned because the sale is going to fetch you some money, and expenses incurred for producing that product or providing that service. Correct measurement of the net effect of the sale and expenses in any accounting period can only be made when you match the relevant expenses to its related sales. Otherwise, it will allow a lot of freedom for not showing the true profitability of the business. If you want to increase the profits, you can show the sales but not the expenses, and vice versa if you want to reduce the profits for any given period. Therefore, the matching principle is applied by first determining the items that constitute revenues for the period and their amount in accordance with the conservatism concepts, and then matching items of cost to these revenues. The only problem is to determine which cost match with these revenues and hence are expenses for the period. Let us now study the consistency concept. The accounting policies and methods followed by the company should be the same every year. The consistency concept states that once an entity has decided on one method, it should use the same method for all subsequent events of the same character unless it has a sound reason to change the method. This is done because frequent changes in the manner of handling same type of events will make it very difficult for the external users to compare financial statements over different periods. The term consistency as used here refers to consistency over a period of time and not the logical consistency. The external auditors have to specify in their reports if the company is changing any of its policies or methods and the effect of these changes on the reported figures. Moving on to the materiality concept. Insignificant events will not be recorded if the benefit of recording them does not justify the cost. In law, there is something called de minimis non curat leges, which means that the court will not consider trivial matters. Similarly, the accounting does not attempt to record events so insignificant that the work of recording them is not justified by the usefulness of the results. For example, when the pencils are issued to the employees, they are written off as expenses, even still when they may be used over a period of time and are assets of the organization. This is done because keeping a track of the use of the pencil will require more expenses and does not serve any real purpose, as the value of the item is too small. In other words, insignificant events will be clubbed together and recorded because the organization has to account for every single paisa. The line separating material events from immaterial events is so thin that the decision depends only on judgment and common sense. The guiding force is to look at the expense in the light of the total expense and see whether any real benefit could be served by going into the details of that item. The concept is very useful when estimating the cost associated in any particular accounting period and revenues, because many of them would not be very close estimates and may not be worthwhile to attempt to refine these estimates and make these more exact. But you should remember that there is no definitive rule that separates material information from immaterial information. So, the materiality concept may be taken to mean that although insignificant events may be disregarded, but there must be full disclosure of all important information. Further, we will discuss the objectivity principle. A confirmation of the happening of the transaction should upkeep every operation. The objectivity principle states that financial information is maintained by independent and unbiased suggestion. It includes more than one person's judgment. Information is not dependable if it is centered only on preparer perception. A preparer can be too enthusiastic or unenthusiastic. An unethical preparer might even try to misinform users by purposefully perverting the truth. The objectivity principle is planned to make financial statements valuable by confirming that they report reliable and demonstrable information. Let us now recapitulate what we have learned so far. Accounting concept refers to the basic assumptions which serve the basis of recording actual business transactions. The important accounting concepts are business entity, money measurement, going concern, accounting period, cost concept, duality aspect concept, realization concept, accrual concept and matching concept. Business entity concept assumes that for accounting purposes, the business enterprise and its owner are two separate entities. Money measurement concept assumes that all business transactions must be recorded in the books of account in terms of money. Going concern concept states that a business firm will continue to carry on activities for an indefinite period of time. Accounting period concept states that all the business transactions are recorded in the books of accounts on the assumption that profits of transactions is to be ascertained for a specified time period. Accounting cost concept states that all assets are recorded in the books of accounts at their cost price. Dual aspect concept states that every transaction has a dual effect. Realization concept states that revenue from any business transaction should be included in the accounting record only when it is realized. Matching concept states that the revenue and the expenses incurred to earn the revenue must belong to the same accounting period. Objectivity principle is that financial information should be supported by independent and unbiased information.